Delta Force Hawk Ops, another new FPS to add to the mix. The alpha test for this game released recently and I've been playing it quite a bit. This game seemed to come out of nowhere and features a large-scale multiplayer battle mode like Ground War from COD or like the Battlefield series, and it also features an extraction mode, and that's what I'm mostly looking forward to play since DMZ decided to drop support, so I'm going to go over all of that first.
Keep the following in mind. Shoot, loot, and time to scoot.
So this is a typical extraction shooter mode. You deploy in, complete missions, loot up, fight bots and players, and then extract with everything from the run. I've recently covered Grey Zone Warfare, which was another extraction shooter, and this game plays completely differently. This game is far more like COD in terms of gameplay, although it plays more like DMZ in that it's not slide cancelling and movement all over the place, and plays a lot more slower and tactically. So the staple of an FPS game, the guns. Guns in this game feel good to shoot, however, they have quite a lot of recoil to begin with. Once you start unlocking attachments, however, you can make them a really solid gun. The firing range in this game is fantastic as well because you can test out weapons and kit them out to try in the firing range, so you can see how much recoil or handling improvement that you can get from all the attachments. The guns feel pretty similar to COD, and so far I haven't struggled with visual recoil, which is fantastic to see. This game has different operators with various abilities. When I first heard about this, I assumed it would be a typical hero shooter like in Overwatch. Instead, whilst playing, I was pleasantly surprised to find that this wasn't the case. The way they have implemented this is actually great. The abilities are similar to COD lethals and tacticals and field equipment. For example, one operator has a healing pistol and smoke grenades, another one has a bow that can fire a recon arrow like the mini radar from COD, and has an electric arrow as well, like the shock stick from COD, although it does damage instead of being more of a disabling thing. Overall, I think these actually add to the tactical nature of the game, because you have to use your ability when it will be beneficial, but it doesn't explicitly force you into roles as such, aside from possibly the healer. I will say right now that the recon class seems a little bit too strong, so they may have to balance that one a bit. So far, the PvP has been like DMZ, with us having an actual fight with another team. There has, however, been a couple of times where I've been instantly killed with no warning and wasn't sure where it came from. Alongside this, sometimes when I'm shooting people, I'm getting a ton of hit markers. I think a lot of this is actually the different tiers of armors and bullets, which is slightly more complicated than DMZ, where you have stronger armor and stronger bullets that you can choose to bring in. This is probably similar to having a 1, 2, or 3 plate vest and the armor-piercing rounds when comparing to DMZ though. From my experience so far, perhaps it's just something that just needs learning and adapting to. When you take damage, it impacts your HP, which doesn't regen after a while like in COD. Instead, there are healing items that recover HP. You can also take bleeds and fractures in various parts of the body, and you have to use a surgical kit or bandages to repair. Overall, this is far more simple than Grey Zone, yet more complex than DMZ. It sounds far more complex than it is, because you can just press one button to heal, and then use a bandage or whatever afterwards. I like this mechanic because it means that shooting a bit more tactically, like shooting someone in the arms or legs to do damage over time, or to prevent people from pushing after taking half a magazine because they have blurry vision. Looting in this game is similar to DMZ. There are various upgrades and things that require random materials in order to upgrade, like the passive missions in DMZ. There's a lot of places to loot, and the loot variety is really good, along with the loot being purposeful with the base upgrades. I like that you have to manage your loot a bit as well, and you can't take everything with you, so if you're a loot goblin, you need to bring in and risk a bigger backpack. However, in this game, you have a stash at your home base, which allows you to store items that you exfil, unlike in DMZ. There's also an auction house with the ability to buy and sell items from other players, and you can also purchase things from vendors. The thing I like most about this base is that they made an in-game version of it where you can walk around and talk to a vendor to buy a gun, for example. It's smaller things like this that make the game so much more immersive and gives an alternative to navigating through all of the UI menus. Speaking of the UI menus, there is a lot of them. This game is very UI heavy with multiple nested menus, and sometimes it's hard to find the things you want to find. For the most part, it's become easier the more I've played, but having a section with tabs that then goes to another tab section, which opens up another menu, which when you make a selection there, it goes into another tab section. Well, it's kind of confusing sometimes as to where I am. This is kind of a minor point though, especially when you can do a lot of these things by closing the menu and actually walking around your base, which is probably the intention, and perhaps I should do that more. As of right now, this game has 6 maps on the selection screen. All of these maps have various objectives, points of interest, boss fights, contract mission, just like killing the high value target like in DMZ, and of course, multiple places to loot. The maps themselves seem to be pretty decent, there isn't too many repeated assets, which is nice, and most of the POIs have a solid option for alternate angles and flanking routes. Fights in between the POIs on the kind of corridor areas don't offer as much room for maneuvering, so it can be frustrating to fight in sometimes. I haven't played enough to see if that's a good thing or not, as it will challenge the players to make a decision on if they want to fight a smaller area head on, or perhaps follow a squad into a different area and either do an ambush or come from different directions. The maps are a little bit on the small side for my liking, although I do like the variety. They seem to be around Ashika Vondel size from what I've played before, although of course I don't have them all unlocked yet. I'm not sure if they will all be enabled in the alpha or not either. I did see a dev confirm that they'll be adding new maps every couple of months with the new seasons, so it seems like they'll be adding a decent amount of content to the game, which is great to see. Performance is a place where this game shines, and I'll be going over PC specs here first. The minimum requirements for this game is a mid-tier graphics card from 2015, and for the CPU, a low-end dual-core with hyper-threading from 2014. These are super low, and this means that even if you don't have a modern up-to-date system, you can likely still play this game. In addition though, this game actually looks pretty good. I'm running on lower settings than the maximum for more frames, but it's super smooth. I've had no graphics or performance issues. A friend I'm also playing with hasn't had any performance issues, and they're using an older system. This is a fantastic situation to be in, especially in an alpha, and the game appears to have been optimized well, which has been a regular problem with a lot of games recently, and it's refreshing to see that this is a massive pro for the game. Moving on to the consoles. The alpha at the moment is PC only. However, the game is going to be coming out on consoles too, and I believe it will be coming out on last-gen consoles as well. The reason I think this is likely is given the minimum system requirements are so low that the older consoles won't have any issues running the game. Currently on PC there is no official controller support. However, I've seen online that people have posted some controller profiles though. The devs have officially stated that they will implement controller support for their launch date too. I've not seen anything official just yet on crossplay, however. This will be an issue for a lot of the people I play with as we have a lot of variety in people's systems. On the Steam page, the promotional stuff says there will be cross-progression across platforms. So I'm hoping they implement crossplay either with launch or shortly after. The other mode in this alpha is called Havoc Warfare. This mode is similar to Battlefield or Ground War from COD, where it's a large-scale battle with large teams and you have to capture objectives. This mode uses the same gunplay and ability mechanics as the extraction shooter. It's fun if you're into that kind of mode. I find it okay, even if it's a bit annoying because there's so many players, but it's a good practice mode to get used to the guns and bullet drops, etc. The third mode that's part of this game, but isn't in the alpha, is the campaign. This will be a single player experience, and I don't really have a huge amount of information on this. Given the state of the rest of the game, I'm sure it will actually be a thought out campaign, unlike the COD ones though. I usually play the campaign just to get used to the game really, with the guns and the movement mechanics, etc. But considering I have access to this alpha, I'd like to give it a playthrough just for the story mode this time. Okay, so I think this game is actually a great DMZ successor. It's a little bit more advanced than DMZ with the whole stash situation and the looting and backpacks, but there's also more complex progression with base upgrades, etc., which gives it far more longevity. This is, of course, an alpha, but it's a great experience so far. I do have some mild concerns, however. The game will be free to play, which is great, but in that case, we need some good anti-cheat. In addition, with free to play, it often comes with pay-to-win elements. The dev team have confirmed that there will be no pay-to-win and that they are working hard on the anti-cheat too, so whilst I'm hopeful, we will have to wait and see. Speaking of the developers, my other concern is that the game is owned by Tencent. I don't know too much about them, but if this game is successful, I hope they don't focus on profitability and rather focus on it being enjoyable to play to keep players engaged. Overall, I'm having a lot of fun playing this, and there's tons of stuff to do, even in the alpha. That's actually the reason why this video has been delayed a bit. If you're looking for a good DMZ replacement that's got a little bit more complexity, then this might be the game for you. I'm planning on uploading some more gameplay videos of this alpha, and once it's released, I'll be looking to upload mission guides and other content, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see that. Thanks for watching, and I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about the game in the comments below. Have you had a chance to try the game yet? And what have you thought of the gameplay so far if you have? Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you next time.